My name is Brett White. I have a 92 FD RX7. I had a 2013 Speed 3, Mazda Speed 3 that was fully built. You know, it was made 400 wheel horsepower. I was looking for something that was going to just kind of be more fulfilling because I had the car for so long and I had done so much to it. I recognized the platform really well and I knew how to build the car, and it was just not exciting anymore. I wanted something that had more of a learning curve. So I figured, well, it has more of a learning curve than a rotary. Basically, I got it, and 3 weeks later the motor blew because there was mechanical issues with the car. It had an ECU that was basically tuned for Japanese gas, and it was one of those old school OEM ECUs that they chipped over there, and there's nothing that you can do to it here. The dealer didn't know enough about the car to properly tell me like what to do with it, and it blew up just getting on the freeway. So I was just going home and I never even felt it blow, but I got off and it was misfiring on one rotor. So we did like spark plugs, compression check. EBCS had a severed boost line, so it didn't know how much boost it was making, and the ECU is tuned for octane higher than what we have here. So it ended up just detonating and it blew an apex seal. So basically got the car in May, it overboosted and detonated 3 weeks later, and the motor, when I had torn it apart, I found out it was already kind of tired. It was the original motor that was probably built like 15, 20 years ago. I got a brand new crate motor from Mazda and dropped that in. We upgraded the ECU to an Adaptronic standalone. I did B&R upgraded twin turbos that basically use stock housings. He drills them out, puts upgraded bearings in it, and billet wheels and all that stuff. So the end goal here is probably going to be about 420 wheel horsepower with fuel, but this summer I'll probably be tuning it for about 300.
So crate motors.
Yeah, they still sell crate motors. It's very popular for them to do that because a lot of engine builders too, they'll buy just brand new crate motors and then they'll build it right out of the box. But I didn't want anything crazy, and I knew 400 was going to be about my max, and since I don't drive the car a lot, it's going to last me a pretty long time. So I got into Mazdas in high school. I had a Miata that it was my second car. I had a special edition MX-5, and I basically wanted a stick shift car because my first car was an automatic. My parents didn't want me learning to drive stick while I was learning to drive at the same time because they saw that as a recipe for disaster. So I drove for a year, and then I bought my MX-5. So I had an Acura Integra as my first car, sold it, and I made money off the car because I put some stuff into it, cleaned it up, sold it, made money, and then I bought this Miata for 10 grand at the time. It was an 03 special edition with super low miles, had the Torsen diff, 6-speed, and it had the VVT engine because it was the NB2 basically. So I did everything you could do to that. I did, full racing beat exhaust. I had the Flying Miata coilover suspension, and it was really clean. I had like the hard dog roll bar, all that stuff. And when I graduated high school, I went to Arizona to go to the Universal Technical Institute where I got my technician background. But during that time, it didn't have enough room to take friends out. I was in college at the time, so we wanted to go out together, do things, and it kind of just ended up sitting more. I carpooled with everyone else. I ended up trading it in, and I got a Mazda Speed 3, and that's kind of how that started. So I found this red Speed 3 at a dealer, 6,000 miles on it. It was a 2013, just brand new, it hadn't been touched. And this was in October of 2015 is when I bought the Speed 3. So barely used, brand new, still had warranty on it and all that stuff. I had that for a pretty long time, and when I moved back to California, I continued my technician training, and I was working in shops at the time, and then just through the community, through the forums and stuff, the people here at Cork Sport in Vancouver kind of just knew who I was, and when they had an opening pop up, the engineer there basically reached out to me and asked, if I'd be interested in this position, because we had talked from time to time. I would send them pictures of the parts I'd put on, and so yeah, we became social media friends. And then when the job offer happened, they paid to move me up here, and I brought Sarah with me. So she has a Mazda 3 as well, which is pretty funny. So Mazda is one of those brands, and Subaru owners can attest to this too. It's kind of just you always just stick with it, I guess. And it helps that I work at Cork Sport because that's obviously brand loyalty when you work for that company, and we can use the cars to help make parts and stuff. So But the whole plan was to kind of just drive the car around and enjoy it a little bit, and I was going to do suspension work and all this other stuff, but then priorities shifted when the motor popped. So basically, I ended up having to dump like $7,000 into the engine to really get it back to where it should be, because you can't just go in and replace just the engine, because all the other component parts, when they start coming off, they break. You know, they're all heat rotted over the 30 years the car's just been like running and driving. So yeah, basically the motor came out, and I was thinking like, okay, I'll swap this out in a weekend, right? You know, because I was thinking it wasn't going to be as bad as it was. But basically the car was disguised as something that was like super clean and reliable, but in reality they just kind of did a nice detail and shoved it out the door. So I pulled the motor out, and the whole sequential turbo system was already disabled, but they left all of that component parts still in the car. So the rat's nest was basically all removed for the reliability aspect, and also just for mechanical access to get to the fuel system. We replaced all the coolant hoses, every gasket, all the fittings that I needed basically, and the engine came with most of the stuff that I needed. I replaced the turbos, or got them rebuilt rather. It was crazy. I had a whole box full of just these OEM parts in these Mazda packets. So, and I had an Excel sheet that my buddy made me that rebuilds FDs. He made me like this Excel chart because he knew exactly what I would need. Basically the timeline was this: in May it blew up, and in August I had the car running again. Because it was one of those things that I was almost just pissed off that the car blew up, because I just bought this brand new $25,000 FD, and I was like, I'm not gonna just let it sit in my garage, because it's such a common problem that these people buy these cars, they blow up, and then they just sit there in their garage and they don't run. And it's like, that's one of the biggest problems why you never see these things, is because they just don't get driven, you know, and people don't care enough, I guess, to just get them fixed and get them out there. And it doesn't help that they're insanely expensive to maintain, like, I get that. But so yeah, so it is tough to source the parts, but given that I work at Cork Sport and we have like connections with Mazda North America, I'm able to basically get all the parts I need. But I also have friends in the community that know the part numbers, and they know, you know, the ins and outs of this. If I didn't have help and I was just by myself, I wouldn't have been able to do it. It's one of those things that rotary knowledge is passed down from person to person, and that's the community is what keeps it alive these days. And I think anybody that's higher up in the rotary community like can attest to that. You take this car to a dealer, the techs are like, I don't know what to do with this. So, yeah, unless they've been there for a long time. I'd say that California has a more active car scene, but that's also given because the weather is always nice. It's always dry. It's always warm, like, for the most part, you know. I'd say Portland is kind of one of those car scenes that is dormant during the winter time, and it comes alive in the summer, and that's, you know, the whole Pacific Northwest in general, I guess. But I'd worked at a shop in San Jose called Because Bags, and they were kind of a central stance shop, and they had a very active Instagram at the time, and the whole car scene in the Bay was very, very active. You know, they have Illust down there, Fat Laces down there. There's just a lot of money in that area, so you had a lot of people dumping a lot of money in their cars, and there was car shows through all 4 seasons. You know, it wasn't just summer. It was pretty crazy. But California, now that I've left, has gotten more and more tough to thrive because of laws and regulations and stuff, and I think we've all seen that. You know, I hope that the scene up here will continue to grow as it gets more, you know, populated and stuff, but we'll see.
Where did car love and fanatics, just getting into cars and liking the scene and wanting to be part of it, where did that start?
Yeah. So when I was young, I remember watching my dad, you know, build cars with my older brothers, and I'm the baby of the family. There's a pretty big age gap between me and my brothers, so I was always kind of the young one looking up to them. And you know, when they got their first cars, and one brother had a Jeep, and my dad helped him like with his Jeep, and my other brother like had gotten a Trans Am, and they were building that together. My dad had everything from, you know, old muscle cars to BMWs, which he loved. He had a E30 M3 when he was like a baller bachelor in the 90s, you know, and so yeah, he had it was cool, man. And I had lost him when I was 13, but you know, growing up, I just always had a desire to like get this car, and then I wanted to do my own thing to it, you know. And I think that like being a car person, honestly, is like a genetic thing that just gets passed down from person to person, and it's like either you have it or you don't, you know. And that's kind of what separates the car enthusiast from just the normal people. So I always knew that to me, cars wasn't about, you know, just going from A to B. And my mom and my stepdad never really understood it, but they really got a kick out of watching me learn on my own and just do it, you know. So I broke God knows how many parts and how many late nights, you know, trying new things, learning new things, you know, busting knuckles, all that stuff. But when I was in high school and I was getting ready for college, I had the grades to go to like a 4-year university, but I knew that traditional college wasn't for me. So I looked into trade school and ended up going to Arizona for trade school, and that kind of the rest is history. So that's where I actually got my technical background and just grew my skill set, learned to do all my own work kind of thing, and you know, now I have all my own tools, so it's pretty cool. You know, I will say that learning to work on cars will save you so much money. It's so much stress and hassle, so you know, the rest is just gone from there, you know. I definitely think that every car, and you always see it, you know, in hindsight, but every car always takes you down this certain path that you meet new people and you just have all these opportunities. And like my Speed 3 led me to my job that I have now, probably, and that led me to my girlfriend, which led me to like everything, you know. So it's just the amount of friends that I've met through the Mazda community, through my old car, was monumental. Like I can't even describe it. So having this car less than a year has already led me to meeting one guy that lives out in Canby who has like 7 RX7s, and he's been rebuilding these things since like the mid 2000s, and he's just an expert. So he's like what I was with the Speed 3 with these cars, and it's already, you know, led me to meeting local Rotary groups and all these new people, and I've learned to work on a platform that I've never thought that I would have gotten the opportunity to learn, you know, with how old it's getting now. So it's just, this car to me is kind of just, you know, it's a time capsule, and it's something that I think I'll be able to hold on to for a long time. And it was also an investment because the car is going up in value. I think, you know, you never really realize the opportunities that you get from a car until they actually come to you. But I'd love to answer this question 5 years from now, trust me, because when the car's in a different spot and the amount of people that I've met, you know, I look forward to doing things like 7 Stock and, you know, Mazda Fest and some of these huge events that are very Rotary central. I'd say that car people nowadays are a pretty rare breed, and it's tough for us to understand that because we're so in it. But from the outside looking in, we're a small community of people, you know, and that's why a lot of manufacturers these days are getting away from making performance-based automobiles. They're doing more autonomous driving, not about performance and fun. And I like that all of us kind of rely on each other to keep that community going. It has the ability to be something really, really special. A lot of times we have to get away from making it a competition. I just think it's cool that everybody all has a goal in mind on what they want to do with something, and we kind of all make it happen, and we can all enjoy it together, you know. For a long time, I look back at myself now and I'm like, God, I knew nothing, you know? And it's funny because when we're, oh, that's nice.
Oh.
Right on camera too.
Oh my God! Did I get into the car? I just saw the hellfire.
Yeah, it's splattered.
Oh no!
Anything red, bro. Always.
They went all over. I saw it drop over here too.
Maybe on the FD or on the.
I don't know.
That's funny, dude. We'll have to remember that as a blooper.
I want to put that as a blooper. Is it just one? Because I saw.
That's why I have
and I was like, oh, where are they coming from? Oh. We got, I just heard it dropping. I was like, I know those are seagulls. Like, what's gonna happen?